10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
All systems go.
You're listening to Sudbury News Talk.
I want to show you something.
Stand by.
On the morning shift.
Anything
Could happen.
Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.
And good morning, everyone. Welcome to Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift. I'm AJ Walsh. Glad to be here with you. Thankful that you're here with us as I'm fighting here with technology, trying to get our Facebook page to, I use it on my other computer to monitor the show. And you hit a button 17 times. It doesn't seem to do anything. Anyways, okay, finally it's there. Thank you for being with us. We're live on CKLU 96.7 FM first thing in the morning. Well, at least first thing for me, 7:30 to 8:30 every weekday morning. And 96.7 is your terrestrial location on the radio. We're also streaming live at cklu.ca. Just click on the Radio Player Canada app and you can stream us. If you download it, you can take us with you and listen to us anywhere, anytime on your favorite device. We're also streaming live at Facebook.com/Sudbury News, YouTube.com/Sudbury News. Make sure to like, share, and subscribe. Follow the page and the channel. Mainly comment. We'll do our best to get your comments up on the screen for those watching, read for those listening. And we're also found on demand on those two channels, along with X, formerly known as Twitter.com/Sudbury News. We're also found on demand on our news aggregator, Sudbury.News, which is our news website, which aggregates all the local news into one location. And if you click on the Sudbury News Talk tab, you can find all the shows on demand there. So thanks, everyone, for being on. We have a great show planned for you today, as usual. And we'll follow up on the conversation we had yesterday with Bob Johnston and Tom Price. And there's some headlines here along with what they were talking about as it pertains to Sudbury's homeless population. Sudbury.com has a story on that. And then lots to talk about in terms of the new cabinet that was formed, same as the old cabinet, just, switching the chairs on the deck of the Titanic, so to speak. And then also there's all kinds of insights into money that was spent during the time Parliament was prorogued, looking into Parliament being prorogued for almost a year, and they'll be back for a couple months or whatever, a month, and then they're off for 2 months again for summer. They all got raises, though. They all made sure they got raises, and they're going to get raises again. It's just, you can't make it up. It's so blatantly in your face. Like, you would think politicians, knowing how people are struggling, they'd say, okay, well, we'll take one pay freeze for 1 year. They haven't taken one pay freeze. Federal government, I'm talking about. Not one. That's just bizarre. And then you come to people and you try to relate to them, and there's people that actually vote for you. It's like, wow, this is just insanity. But anyways, so we'll get more into that later. Start off with a little weather as usual. And then we'll talk about, some local issues, local stories. We'll get your comments in. We'll make sure that the weather pages are loading properly. I guess they have to load 2 and 3 times for some reason now. And we'll be back after the weather with your comments, news headlines, and more right after this. Okay, and your Sudbury weather brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca. and Voyager Tire. We'll be at about 14 degrees Celsius today, mostly cloudy. 40% chance of showers or drizzle, fog patches dissipating in the morning. So the high will be 23 with the humidex 26, so rather warm. Tonight, partly cloudy, 40% chance of showers. A few showers beginning in the morning. Risk of thunderstorm before morning. Friday, few showers ending in the morning, then mainly cloudy, with a 40% chance of showers and a risk of thunderstorm in the morning. High of 25, humidex 27. So it looks like a repeat. Thursday, Friday, same thing. Oh, look at this. We got to and we got to redo it again even, just to keep redoing it, just to get the page to come in. Okay, as you can see, Friday's a repeat of today. Saturday's a repeat of Friday, a little cooler. And then, oh my goodness, sunny for Sunday, Monday, and Tuesday now. It was also supposed to be cloudy and rainy until Tuesday, but I guess the sun's going to move in a little bit earlier. Not going to complain about that. Wednesday, clouds roll back in. So sunny and 11 for Sunday, sunny and 19 for Monday, sunny and 21 for Tuesday. So you might be able to enjoy a couple days of the long weekend. Look at that. Okay, I'm supposed to have a fire on Sunday, so this is looking promising. We just got to get some dry wood that's going to dry fast enough. So anyways, I got a plan for that tonight when we get home. Look at your satellite as of yesterday. So the satellite image even changed for some reason. Something going on with our internet here and our web pages lately. Not sure what's going on here. We'll just do that again. So May 15th, as of 1:30 a.m., just a bunch of clouds everywhere. That's your Sudbury weather, brought to you by SudburyWeather.ca and Voyager Tire. We'll be back with news headlines, your comments, more right after this. Okay, thanks for sticking around, guys. It's going to be a great show, I promise. It's great to get together each and every morning with all y'all on the radio, on the internet, everywhere. It just seems like everyone's in this room together and we're all just having a chat, which is great. It's the wonderful side of technology. Northern Hillbilly, good morning, people. Good morning to you as well. And blessings from Nana. Good morning. Heart emoji, exclamation point. Good morning, Nana. Thanks for being on. Judy, good morning to you on Facebook. Miles, good morning. Thanks for being on the show the day before last. It was a great show. Much appreciated. And Marvin, morning all. Happy face. And Andrew, good morning to you. Hazel, good morning. Prayer emoji. Much appreciated. Much needed. And Belinda, good morning. You are not your worst moment, your hardest day, or your biggest mistake. You are a collection of resilience, grace, and untapped potential. Double heart emoji, yes. Thank you so much. And you guys are very positive, by the way. Just want to let everyone know, even though we talk about contentious, let's say, issues, because politics, let's face it, is these days a contentious thing, just to talk about politics in general. Everybody is polarized, one side or another. Families are split up. Friendships are over with. People are unfriended on social media. But for the most part, even we get the odd troll on the show, and that happens, and that's the society we live in. The people on the show are super positive, always wanting the best for each other and for society. And at the same time, want to hold people accountable and want to know the truth. And so whoever we have on the show, we had Tom Price and Bob Johnston on the show yesterday. And again, they were sharing their perspectives, and we give them the opportunity to share their perspectives. And then it's up to the people to go in and look into what's going on. And we had the fortunate, we were fortunate to have Natalie Labby kind of chime in on the show yesterday, because she represents the other side of what Bob and Tom are talking about, right? And I thought, well, that's pretty incredible. Like, I think that's what that would be my ideal show, is to have the two sides, one saying you're doing something and the other one defending them, and then the other one saying the other side is doing something and then the other side defending what they're doing, and then having people listen to that conversation and make their own decision, because there are a lot of people that are losing faith in every level of politics, whether it's municipal, provincial, or federal. And there's many good reasons they do, and we talk about them on the show oftentimes. Now, I lean more towards, as of late, federal politics, because we've had a federal election. So, and again, we're going to continue as the new government, same as the old government, is got a new, put some lipstick on, and now they're going to pretend that they're new. We're going to talk about that. And that's my own pessimistic point of view on what just happened with this latest election, because I think, because we do this each and every morning, we talk about so many things in politics that it was very evident that a change needed to be made. And the same government came in and said, okay, guys, we are the change that you need, even though they're the same. And people voted for that, which I think you're going to get what you voted for. And good on you. I got to go through it too, but oh well. I mean, I'll stay positive regardless of what's going on. But we're going to point out things that aren't normally pointed out by the media, because we have to do that, because our media is compromised, because it's paid for by the very people that came in and said, we're going to give you the change, even though we were the problem to begin with. And people voted for that. That's good. So the media is paid for by those people. That's not an opinion. $1.4 billion is a fact for CBC. And now another 174 some odd million dollars going to them, as was promised in the campaign. Wink, wink. Hey, you know what I'm promising if I get in? Another $150+ million for y'all. That in and of itself was a public bribe, ladies and gentlemen. Thank you very much. They shouldn't even be funded in the first place, in my point of view. And because it's only one side. They are the left media. It is what it is. They're very biased on the left side. They come right out and attack the other side instead of being unbiased journalists. Time and time again, I'll probably have something today to show that. Just it's one thing after another of evidence that they do that, and they're basically CNN of Canada. But at least in the United States, you have Fox, which is unarguably right wing. So, but one isn't masquerading anymore as being unbiased. They're totally biased and they're left leaning. And then at least you have the totally biased and right leaning news, which is Fox. So you can see the two and compare them at least. Whereas in Canada, we can't. We don't have anything to compare to in mainstream media. We have independent media, which the mainstream media touts and goes on about that they aren't real media. What's real? You're not paid off by the government means you're not real? Is that what it means? Because they're doing real journalism, and we'll show that again today. Like, you'll hear stories on this show that you'll never hear from CBC, because we play people, independent journalists who are doing real journalism. They go back to the days of integral journalism, where they follow what they're supposed to be journalists. And the reason is because they're not paid for by the very people they're holding accountable. And Marianne, good morning to you. Good morning, everyone from Barrie, liked and shared as usual. Belinda says, new cabinet is like putting lipstick on a pig. Yeah, I didn't even read your comment, but I used the lipstick analogy. We're always on the same page. Marianne, LOL, LOL, can't fix what's broken with those who broke it. So yeah, the people that caused the problem are here to give us the solutions. And Sheila, good morning to you. Northern Hillbilly, what's the guy going to do about it anyway? There you go. And Marianne says, love the video at Carnage signing orders, not the way our government works. Yeah, we'll have more on that coming up from our good friend Mario for the North. Marvin says, oh, and of rain for the last 2 days in Alberta, with the same for the next 3 days. So yeah, looks like there's rain all across Canada for some strange reason. Canada's a big country, and to have it raining from coast to coast is a pretty big thing to have happen. But yet there's fires raging. I guess the rain hasn't been able to do anything for the fires, right? And that's another thing I wanted to talk about today. We have some wooded area in the back of our place where we live. It's beautiful, beautiful property. Anyways, so I'm with our good friend Billy, who's on the show all the time, who also lives in the same building as I do, and that's where our studio is. We're in the back with my grandson walking around, and the cats, whatever, we're looking for the 2 cats. And you're walking, and it's just, the twigs are snapping, and I just said to Billy, what do you kind of notice lately about the forest and stuff? He goes, yeah, everything just seems dry and brittle, and a lot of trees look like, more trees than not are dead. It just looks like that. We're just making an observation of what we're thinking as we're walking through. And then my grandson gets stuck behind, a fallen small tree. But anyways, he can't walk any further. So he's like, Grandpa, I'm just going to break the twig. I'm like, that's a big twig, Calvin. You're not even 4 yet. And he just snaps it, dish, and walks on. And I'm like, that twig shouldn't have been snapped. And that tree hasn't been down all that long. Snapped it, no problem. So for some reason, and we know why, we talk about it on the show, but I'll just put it out the question. For some reason, the forest floor is very dry, even though we had record amounts of snow just recently and tons of rain. It's still dry. It's just crunchy. It's just more than usual. And then we already have these fires going on in Ontario, hectares and hectares worth. Even though there's rain, if I'm looking right at the satellite right here, there's tons of clouds. There's not one area of Ontario that doesn't have a cloud over it. Tons of rain, record amounts of snow, and we already have fires. And as I'm looking at this picture, I can tell the difference between natural clouds and geoengineering clouds that are made from cloud seeding or spray from jets. And you can tell it just looks like a thin layer of gray is usually the chem spraying, geoengineering projects that we have had going on since the 1990s. And that's what's over most of Ontario. So I'm not sure about the rest of Canada. I don't have the view in front of me of that. But whatever is being sprayed could possibly be causing this dryness and killing of the trees, because we don't know what chemicals are in the exhaust of those planes. Well, we do know some of them. But yeah, that's a huge issue. I mean, and one that I don't think enough people are talking about. And it would make you think, like, what's going on? It's being sprayed over our heads every day, but yet there's people who deny that it's happening. That's the weirdest, most bizarre thing. I don't know. Is there a spell or something put on people where they just can't see something that's right in front of them, right over their heads all the time? So anyways, yeah. So, good morning, Sudbury. That's Monique who's on here. Thanks for being on. You got the cool shade smiley emoji here. One of my favorite ones. Miles says, no budget by the feds until after the summer break. Same old liberals. Yeah, you got exactly what we're going to be talking about when we come back from our local news. Good morning, hand clap emoji from Collingwood. That's Liette. Good morning to you. Any signing they do right now are all illegal. Government is still prorogued. There you go. We'll talk about that as well. And Diane, good morning to you. Brian, good morning. Sudbury Patriots, Canada flag emoji. And Grand Rising. Monique here, got the heart emoji, the triple exclamation point. Jerome, good morning to you. Well, good morning, Sudbury News followers. The situation in BC with the ostrich farm. Don't forget your booster. Yeah, the ostrich farm. I saw you shared it. So there you go. You shared the video this morning. That I had a chance to watch it actually as I was preparing for the show, talking about the benefits of eating ostrich eggs, like what they contain in them and the health benefits of ostrich eggs. So you can Google that today or type it into Chat GPT. What are the health benefits of ostrich eggs? And it might give some insight into why the government is so hell-bent on destroying this ostrich farm in BC. They just want to come in and kill them all, even though they're healthy. It is what it is. You can look into that situation yourself and you can make up your own mind, but look into it. Ask yourself why the government is so determined to kill all these ostriches at that farm in BC. And then look up the health benefits of ostrich eggs while you're there, while you're looking at it. Miles, I'm reminded that we should be fact-checking Tom and Bob, fact-checking more Tom and Bob. I'm told their information is not reliable. I'm trying to be kind, but some call them absolute liars. I really don't know. I need to do some digging. That's exactly right. See, this is the whole point. I know Natalie doesn't agree with them being on, and I'm really grateful that she doesn't agree, because if everyone agreed with everybody, it would be not a very good world. And so if one person makes a claim, another person can say, no, that's not true, and show the evidence. So yesterday, Natalie was kind enough to share some city documents with me that she said show the statistics that go against some of the things that they were talking about yesterday. And I think that's healthy. I think it's healthy for somebody to come out and do their analysis, say how they got their information, and that's where they got it. And then someone else to come out and say they got different information, and this is where they got their information from. And the person listening to the two people can go, I kind of think this, like this makes more sense over here is where this information came from for me, or maybe I have a couple more questions. But there's no harm in discussing people with alternate points of view. But then the real question is, how did they get their information? Is it from a credible source? Where, and then unpacking it from there. But I really like what you said. You got to do some digging. That's what we all got to do. We all got to do that. And come to your own conclusion, because you are all individuals, all given the ability to think for yourselves, do your own research, and have your own opinions. But make sure your opinions are based on fact. It's just a really good way to go about things. Hard to have an opinion that's not based on facts. Well, it's 8 months. We have not had a government representing us. Calls to question, do we need a federal government? They seem to be a lot of illegal activities for being prorogued. There you go. And that's not misinformation. That's not disinformation. Government has been prorogued for 8 months. They have gone ahead and done certain things while government's been prorogued. And so that needs to be looked into. Our media is not going to look into it, obviously, because they're paid for by them. And that leaves independent media and people like us to just do your own research. Unfortunately, that's the world we live in. And telling everyone to get, yes. I can't say certain things on here. I noticed the show just goes right off, but the comment is there for people to read. Who's Mad Max PPC? What's the point? There we go. Okay. And then we'll just dive in. We got some local news here from Sudbury.com, first of all, coming from our news aggregator. And it comes off on the heels of what we were talking about yesterday. Bob Johnson was talking about the homeless situation, and I asked him, how many people are more local that are experiencing homelessness compared to people who've moved in from other areas, which I've heard all kinds of reports that people have been shipped in to Sudbury by the busloads that were homeless, told that there's better services in Sudbury. And so this report, I guess, was made to look into that very thing. And Brian, good morning to you. Thanks for being on. Yeah, we'll be talking about the Liberals' non-budget. Remember, Justin Trudeau said the budget balances itself anyways, so you don't really need a budget. We'll talk about that right after this. New report shows, I'll get that up on the screen for everybody. Coming from Sudbury.com, new report shows most Sudbury homeless people are locals. So everyone can know now that the question has been answered. More demographic information from 2024 point-in-time count is set to hit the council table on May 21st, not only showing that the majority of Sudbury's homeless are local, but that 41% were homeless for the first time before they were 24. The point-in-time count is a federally mandated estimate of those experiencing homelessness in each municipality that receives funding from Reaching Home, Canada's homeless strategy. In Sudbury, the count was carried out on October 8th, 2024. It found that 505 people experiencing homelessness in Greater Sudbury, and of these 505, 229 opted to take the survey. So this isn't all of the people. This is half the people that were found to be homeless actually took part in the survey. So it was on October 8th to 15th, 2024 is when it took place. Unlike the last survey done in 2021, which revealed that more than 70% of those who completed the survey said they came from out of town. So that's where that rumor came from. It came from a fact. It came from an actual report. So it wasn't just something of a rumor. 70% of people who took the survey in 2021 said they're from out of town. So that was the majority of people back then. 72% of the survey respondents stated they had been in Sudbury for more than 5 years. Additionally, only 12% of the survey respondents stated they had relocated to Sudbury within the last 1 to 5 years, 5% within the last 12 months, and 7% within the past 3 to 6 months. The survey found only 4% of the survey respondents had been in Sudbury for less than 3 months. This new survey. So again, we're just talking about half the people. You have to ask yourself why half said they wouldn't. Is there something, let's say all of those people were from out of town and there was some secret thing going on. I'm just saying this. This isn't what I think. But I'm just saying, let's say there were people sending people to Sudbury and said, if anyone asks you, you don't talk to them. You don't say who sent you. So let's say half of the people were told not to talk to anybody, to do a survey. And then the other half were the people that are just, homeless because they lost their jobs or they got into drugs or whatever. A lot of reasons. The financial crisis we're experiencing, the housing crisis we're experiencing, the opioid crisis we're experiencing. Financial, like you wouldn't believe, no one can afford a house. There's not enough apartments for people to live in. Could be many reasons. But maybe they're the only ones who took the survey, and that's why most of them are from Sudbury. You know what I mean? It'd be really great to get everybody. And one of the things you could do at the, let's say at the soup kitchen, we'd like to ask you a few questions before, we give you the food, if that's okay. Is that okay to exchange your questions and answers? We'll do a survey before we give you the food. Is that okay? And most people would probably say, yeah. Okay, I'll answer a couple questions before I get my food, which I'm starving. And it's not to be manipulative or whatever, but we could have probably done a better job of getting more people to take part in that survey. I can definitely tell you that much. And yes, I agree with you on that one, Belinda. Okay. So that's the main thing I wanted to talk about today. And I hope Bob Johnston would be, as we had him on yesterday, and he works with the homeless, and you can't knock somebody for that. And he made some points about, council. He doesn't see council down talking to people who are experiencing homeless in the city. And Lorraine, good morning to you. And I think you're right on that one as well. And good morning, Mary. Nice to see you on. Hope you're having a good morning from St. Catharines, Ontario. Yeah, we welcome everyone from all over Ontario, all over Canada, all over the world. We are reporting out of Sudbury, and a lot of times cover Sudbury News, but it pertains to most jurisdictions in the world. We're kind of going through similar things all over the globe. Now, Trevor says you should be furious about this, but you aren't. You should make your own show called, or podcast, say, named "You Should Be Furious About This, but you aren't." And then all your topics that you talk about, it'd be awesome, Trevor. I really do think you got something there. Isn't that weird? You were more angry at your friends and family who went against the grain because they saw through the lies that your government and family doctor for not only lying to your face, but perhaps endangering your family entirely. That's right. I believe, yes. And we've kind of moved on from that, right? Like, people have remorse for what they did. It's easier to fool people than it is to convince them that they've been fooled. Good. So it's easier to fool people than it is to convince them that they've been fooled. Because once they've been fooled, there's shame involved. Like, someone doesn't want to admit that they've been fooled by anything. And that's why I thought all these people who voted for Mark Carney here, they all came out of the woodwork somehow. They were all decimated. They couldn't say anything because it was so blatantly obvious how terrible the government had been, and how Canada's going into the toilet. And good morning, blessings from Sudbury. That's Brian. Good morning to you. And people voted for them anyways, just because they got a new leader all of a sudden who's just behind Justin Trudeau anyways as his advisor. So he was advising Trudeau to make those decisions that he did, and then came out saying he's totally different. And people bought it and voted for it, and were all smug about it too, and in your face about it. And it's their fault that we're going to go into, and they might even get a majority now, underhandedly, very dirtily, with the elbows up. That's a penalty in hockey, but it isn't in politics. So they're able to do that. And a lot of dirty stuff went on this election, and now they might end up with a majority. But good on you guys. You guys voted for them. You have it. You can have it. And don't complain. Don't complain at all. You can't complain. You voted for it. Good morning, my fellow Canadians. That's Larry. And so let's get on with this. What's going on? Mario for the North, talking about the latest with Parliament being prorogued and all the decisions they're making and money they're borrowing and raises they're taking, and then not having a budget when they first come back in, all that stuff, everything we've been talking about, and then saying we've been going to get to later. We might as well get to it now. And we'll be back right after Mario.
Government just announced today, hasn't happened since 2020. We are going to have no budget. And this was just reported by the finance minister. Francois Philippe Champagne says that the Liberal government has other priorities that they need to tackle before the House of Commons is set to return in June. But tabling a budget, that's not one of them. He will not offer any sort of timeline either. Pierre Poilievre does what he does best. He kept them honest. He said during last month's federal election, one of Mark Carney's most common slogans was a plan beats no plan. Conservatives wholeheartedly agree. That's why it is so unacceptable that today Carney confirmed that he in fact has no plan and the government will not table a budget. You can never argue with Pierre Poilievre. Parliament has already been shut down for nearly half a year now. In the face of serious economic threats, the Liberals don't intend to present the budget this year. There's no roadmap forward, no economic vision, and no willingness to lead. This is not leadership Mark Carney promised. It's abandonment. Canadians deserve more. They deserve a government that shows up when it matters most, especially when paychecks are at risk and businesses are struggling to stay afloat. I guess this would be a good time to also mention the fact that members of Parliament, even though they're taking the summer off and won't be sitting in the House of Commons, they're going to get a pay bump. It's going to go up from anywhere around $8,000 to upwards of $16,000 in 2025. First part of it has already happened. For those who don't know, about 5 weeks ago, Mark Carney already approved, this is with no Parliament, with a swipe of his pen, he approved spending of $40 billion. This was done under what's called a special warrant. Sounds official, but here's what it really means. Billions of your dollars spent without a single debate, without a vote, without a single question in Parliament. And you know what quietly happened last week? Another $33 billion. That's $73 billion that Mark Carney has quietly approved. No Parliament, no budget in 5 weeks. I have a feeling we are going to outspend and print more money this year than we printed in 2020. And we all know why we had to do what we had to do in 2020. This is going to be inflationary and it's going to be a disaster. Canada, we have no plan. There is no budget. This is not a plan.
So what do people have to say to that? Like, if you voted for it and you want to, so Mario's saying that they're not going to have a budget, but they ran on the fact that they said they have a plan and the Conservatives don't have a plan. So what's their plan? The budget would show their plan, but they're not going to have a budget. So if you voted for Mark Carney, how could you justify that? Like, what would you say to justify what they're doing there? And there's so much more. It just doesn't end. He is so. Do you see the way Mark Carney talks to the media? Anybody? Like, the media is on his side, and he so talks down to women journalists, and it's absolutely insane. I just got to see here. I know that I had it here, so I just got to see. Yeah, so maybe it's just named something else here. But yeah, so the cabinet. New cabinet. And this is from our good friend here on YouTube.
And so what does
Jasmine Lane, for anyone who knows who that is, talking about, just Mark Carney and how he talks to people in general. It's pretty crazy. Anyways, let's just see here.
And so what does tangible progress look like for you when it comes to addressing cost of living concerns in this country? And will there be a barometer such as public mandate letters for Canadians to hold you accountable to?
Well, I think the way Canadians will hold account.
Pierre Poilievre held his first press conference post-election. and gave his remarks about Mark Carney's cabinet picks. It was both funny and also kind of scary. And also, I don't want to say I told you so, but, well, you know, the National Economic Council, the director of that in the USA under Trump, highlighted why the tariff issue in Canada was maybe made a lot worse thanks to our liberal government. Speaking of which, you are not going to believe what Mark Carney had to say to a journalist who asked him about being held accountable. CBC even had to admit that the liberals are running on conservative ideas and a conservative platform. Then they proceeded to mock Pierre Poilievre and defend absolutely everything that the liberals do, because that is exactly how unbiased news operates. I'm Jasmine Lane. This is Over Opinionated. Subscribe, follow, comment, like this video. And before we get into all of the topics of the day, I wanted to highlight this. Premier Danielle Smith at PragerU talking with Ben Shapiro and her cautioning Americans about 51st state.
I know that the premier has taken some flack.
And I'm just going to kind of fast forward this part just because it's not what I necessarily, want to talk about today, but let's just get into the next thing that she's talking
point
about
across, right? And I think that nobody describes that better than the director of the National Economic Council in Trump's administration.
I'm hearing anecdotally about a lot of damage in demand from Canada, for example, just because, in part, of the breakdown in sentiment and feeling between us and them. Are you hearing the same, and what do you expect to happen from here?
No, I think that again, there were some difficult times. I think that Justin Trudeau and the president didn't exactly get along, and Canada kept making it worse and worse with their rhetoric. But now I think that we've had, the prime minister come in and meet with the president and begin a new, closer relationship. And so I'm sure everything will work out fine.
It should come as a surprise to absolutely nobody that if you continuously mock somebody in bad faith that you have a bad relationship with, or you use them to your own advantage, they're probably not going to be too happy about that. And so, yes, obviously a fresh new face with Trump. New face. You should watch Moose on the Loose's videos about that, where he has like the entire diagram of all of the ways that Mark Carney, Donald Trump, and Elon Musk are not new faces. But it does help, certainly, to have somebody else around the table there. And, Mark Carney announced his new cabinet. Again, new cabinet today has about 50% of the exact same people.
Broadly not changing. Francois-Philippe Champagne stays as Minister of Finance. He adds national revenue. Chrystia Freeland is Minister of Transport and Internal Trade. That's identical to what she had in the initial Mark Carney cabinet. Stephen Guilbeault, Minister of Canadian Identity and Culture, a minister responsible for official languages. Massaging of the title, but essentially staying in that same role. Dominic LeBlanc. This is slightly different. He gives up the full trade portfolio, but keeps Canada-U.S. trade, intergovernmental affairs, which is a critical political management portfolio in terms of relationships with the premiers, and of course has the one Canadian economy function, which is what Mark Carney has talked about here. And then Joanne Thompson is the Minister of Fisheries. She's staying there.
Here is the full list of his entire cabinet. There is a lot of people there. One thing that's interesting, though, so he has secretaries of state, which is weird because we don't have states in Canada. It really feels like you're bringing American-style politics to Canada. I don't actually care about this title. It's just another one of those things that's annoying because you run this whole campaign on, he's bringing America. He's too much like Trump. And here we are with a new series of ministers that are called secretaries of state. But in here we have things like sport, international development, combating crime, nature, seniors, CRA, financial institution, children and youth, defense procurement, rural development. Lots and lots of familiar faces in this one. And another interesting detail here is that Mark Carney has announced that just like Justin Trudeau's government, he too will have a a DEI government. Cabinet roles are not based on credentials and who can do the best job, obviously, because why would you keep in a whole bunch of people who have absolutely failed? But it is gender quoted with 50% women and 50% men, no exceptions at all. And this really flashed me back to the same conversation that I had with Pierre Poilievre and Anna Poilievre about this topic and how meritocracy yields results. And there's tons of incredible, very capable women across all parties, obviously. But who are the women on Mark Carney's cabinet? Well, we still have Chrystia Freeland. We still have Anita Anand. Melanie Joly is still there. All of these women who have proven themselves to fail. If you've already seen this clip of Anna and Pierre when I had a chat with them.
Now, I'm just going to fast forward her interview with Pierre Poilievre and then his take on, you can just imagine what Pierre Poilievre would have said. He would have said all the same things that she just said about the cabinet. It's just the same cabinet anyways. There's no real difference. You're just changing names. So here's the CBC's response to Pierre Poilievre's response to the cabinet. And you can just see if this is unbiased reporting or not. If you were to just, critique CBC's reporting on this, would you say that this is unbiased analysis of Pierre Poilievre's remarks?
That he is viewed in the best light ever. So enjoy.
And that he says he wants the country to succeed. He then spent the next 15 minutes talking about all the ministers who were there previously and the things they did to ruin the country, naming particularly Sean Fraser and Stephen Guilbeault, taking some questions about how he will approach things inside the House of Commons. But overall, it started out in one tone and finished in another. That's all I'll say, because he leaned into attacking the people that he thinks still don't represent change, are still more of the Trudeau government, and particularly don't represent the things that he thinks Canadians want right now.
Yeah, cabinet is broken, is essentially what he said, right? It's no longer Canada's broken. He's saying this cabinet is not change. A style and approach from Mr. Poilievre, Rosie, that would suggest it's almost as if he won the election rather than lost the election and lost.
So do you hear the flexion in his voice, how he's speaking about that? And Pierre Poilievre, you got to remember, almost half of Canadians voted for Pierre Poilievre, right? And I don't think David Cochrane is taking that into account. Almost half of Canada voted for Pierre Poilievre, and he doesn't even have a seat due to liberal antics and elbows up, dirty politics, right? So listen again to how he talks about Pierre Poilievre.
His own seat, talking about how he's going to stand there in defense of Canadians. He'll only be able to stand there, actually in the chamber behind him, because of the goodwill of the Prime Minister, who's going to call an early by-election for Mr. Poilievre so he can run in one of his MP seats in Alberta at the cost of close.
It's only to the benevolence of our king that he's allowing him to have a by-election, and he's not showing gratitude to our king for that, right? That's Dave Cochrane saying. Totally against Pierre Poilievre and the Conservatives. Totally unapologetically against anything but the government that's paying him.
Close to $2 million to have a by-election, all while he stays in Stornoway throughout this. So it's interesting that given that sequence of events and given those series of factors, that it was that kind of approach and response to things there from Mr. Poilievre. Going after Stephen Guilbeault, talking about the radical environmental agenda, blaming Sean Fraser for the housing crisis, which is... Sean Fraser's I don't think he's 40 yet, or he's just 40. I don't think he caused the housing crisis in Canada.
Not.
There's a whole bunch of layers and effects to that. But wanting to fight the same political...
I think David Cochrane has a job waiting for him after his career in media as the public relations person for the Liberal Party.
Battles we just endured during the 5 weeks of the campaign and for the 2 years leading up to that. So the pivot that people have suggested Mr. Poilievre kind of needed to make ever since Justin Trudeau left and Donald Trump came in, it's still not quite there. in terms of this was the same argument, the same criticism, just with a fresh top of congratulations, we'll work with you where it works. But then it very much morphed into 20 minutes of the same stuff and then about 6 minutes of questions, and then he's out of there.
It's very uneducated and intentionally misinforming the public to suggest that because Sean Fraser is only around 40, that means that he had nothing to do with any of those issues. Well, unfortunately, if you actually look at the data and statistics in those timeframes that he was managing said portfolios, everything declined under him. And if you're suggesting that that's not his fault, of course, there's other factors in there, duh. But if you're going to try to suggest that he has no influence, no power, no control over any of those things while looking at the declining numbers when he was involved in them, well, then in that case, if that's your argument, why on earth was he even given that role to begin with? Why?
Right? And you're the media supposed to be finding these things out. So what you have is the opposition leader pointing things out that, are apparent and all Canadians should know. The elbows up people don't know. Maybe their elbows are getting into their ears and they can't really hear properly. Things that are going on or over their eyes. See no evil, hear no evil, speak no evil. They don't mind speaking evil, that's for sure. But then, so the opposition leader is pointing things out that are apparent, that are the media is supposed to be doing. And then the media comes on, slams the opposition leader and comes up with PR talking points for the government that's in power, making up excuses for them. They don't even have to do it. They're doing the work for them. So you can see how this works. Tomorrow, I think I want to do a CBC show again. Talking about their bias, because I'm sure a lot of people listening to the show are like, why are you so hard on CBC? I really like their programming. And it's true, they have some good programming, and I've grown up with the CBC. Some people say, why criticize the CBC when they brought us the really great programming like Beachcombers and, Little Mosque on the Prairie and all these shows over the years and Mr. Dress Up? How could you possibly put that down? I'm like, that's the weirdest kind of thinking I've ever heard in my life. Sure, they've had some great programs, but if they're telling people lies and they're just PR for the government, like, I don't want that. Like, I don't care if I could still like Mr. Dress Up and still think that they're being totally biased, just talking mouthpieces for the government because they're being paid by them, which is totally, totally egregious, totally wrong, right? Be reporters. And tomorrow we're going to show an interview with Mark Carney where the CTV reporter actually was asking him some real questions and see how uncomfortable he was with that and how he mansplains to her, and nobody with the elbows up crowd notices how he talks down to women and has no patience whatsoever with real journalistic questions. Anyways, we'll have that for you tomorrow and more. Thanks for being with us today. It's all the time we got. Stay tuned now for Your Shot Daily on CKLU 96.7 FM. Remember to stay aware, take care, and like and share. And we'll be back same time, same place on the same platforms, God willing, tomorrow. So stay safe, everyone. Have a great Thursday. We'll see you tomorrow morning. Ciao.
This is Sudbury News Talk on the morning shift.